Hello and welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty.
My name is Michael Silk Olajide. I'll say that.
And we are delighted. I noticed the extra flourish on your name, by the way, this week, Silk. We're delighted to be joined by our good friend, the Golden Boy, former WBC light heavyweight champion, Donny Lalonde. What's up, Donny?
Great to be here, guys. Love your show. Happy to be on it.
Yeah, we love having you on.
So, going with something topical to begin with, kind of topical anyway. Yesterday should have been the big fight, should have been the night, Donny. Fury versus Usyk in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we know that Fury withdrew a couple of weeks ago with a cut eye, but I wondered, how have you been following that whole situation and how interested are you in that fight, which is now rescheduled for May the 18th?
Well, first of all, who do you think would have won?
Okay, well, who would have won? If the Fury, we all know, if the Fury that showed up against Nagano fought Usyk, he would get beaten easily. If the Fury who fought Klitschko shows up, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting fight because as great as Usyk is, I mean, Fury's a big guy and he can freaking, if you can do that to Klitschko and Wilder and people like that, I think I don't know. It's a 50-50 fight. I really think it's a great fight. I don't think it's an easy fight to pick.
Yeah, I make you right. Silk is pretty confidently in the Ukrainian corner for what it's worth.
Yeah, I really am. I mean, I just I like the skills. I think he's very intelligent. He's very mobile. He's seen a lot of punches coming his way, and I think he'll get kind of what Ngannou did. He'll get Tyson hesitating, and once you get a guy hesitating, it's almost a wrap.
Yeah.
Well, once a guy starts hesitating, he's unsure, and if he's unsure, he's not punching, and if you're not punching, he's not scoring.
You lose that split-second edge, and it's over. I mean, the other guy, Usyk's not going to miss that edge. Not going to miss that moment.
Exactly. He's able to let his hands go so easily. And I think, yes, Tyson's the bigger man, but I don't really see that as an advantage. I don't at all. It's not like it's not like he's so tall that Usyk cannot punch him in the face.
Look, Donny, we have this recurring theme, Donny, with the Silk in particular. He's well known for flying against the stream. Legendary manager Dennis Rappaport famously dubbed him the Contrarian. And Michael has got this whole thing that size is way overrated as an advantage in boxing. He doesn't say it's completely never a factor, but he thinks it's massively overrated. And usually you'll never get him to make a pick based on size. He'll always go back to the skills and the styles of the fighters.
Yeah, I do believe skills are the bigger. When you're talking about the difference between two guys and you're looking at a fight, you must go with skills first. Size should not be first.
I certainly would not have. I would have bet my life Sugar Ray Leonard couldn't beat me.
I was
from
thinking
size
of that.
alone.
I was thinking of that.
And power alone. So I think I might be living example. Michael, I might have something going for him in this conversation. That one.
Yeah, that's exactly the parallel in your own boxing life that occurred to me as I was talking, Donny. That Ray was obviously a smaller guy, tiny really compared to you. And I've met both of you and sat next to you both, and he's just a smaller guy. But you know what? When I'm not likening this to you necessarily, but when Roy Jones fought John Ruiz, the Ring magazine ran with a headline that said or a byline that said, "We know what happens at when a good big one fights a good little one, but what happens when an exceptional little man faces an average big man?" And that's what the argument was for Jones versus Ruiz. And with all due respect to your fine achievements, we're talking about Ray as an all-time great and yourself as just a damn good world-class fighter, right? And a world champion. So, so there is some kind of differential there in terms of the perception of you both as boxers, but still you thought, you said he wants to be remembered as great, so he's going to get knocked out in his last fight.
Well, if you ask Ray, he will tell you, he has publicly said numerous times that I hit him and hurt him more than anybody ever fought.
Yeah.
So no matter how limited apparent my skill was, it was enough that I was able to, finesse my way into be able to hit was such a great defensive fighter, you know. So people really underestimated my skill because they had no idea. Like, for example, and Michael knows this because he knew me training in the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, I have serious shoulder limitation where, I mean, I couldn't even hold my hand like a normal fighter or punch an uppercut or punch a left hook for most of my career, let alone, you know, having a normal fluidity of a boxer. My right hand was so damaged, I was constantly being rehabilitated in training camps and constantly interfered with my ability to develop as a fighter.
Yes.
In continuity, which you really need to evolve, you know?
Yeah.
So I must have had something, unless it was just luck for 9 rounds, that I was able to fight with Ray. You know, like, I mean, make him miss, make him
you
pay.
were outboxing at times. If outboxing is outlanding someone and finding them constantly, you were doing that with Ray, you know, and you gave him all the trouble he could handle, regardless of perception.
Right. So anyway, but bottom line is, you know, like, I was thinking about this because I didn't know really where the conversation was going to go, but I remember one recently you guys had about the all-time greatest fighters, or somebody was talking about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it was you guys. Yeah. And you know, I mean, first of all, what are the parameters? What are we talking? You know,
to frame it precisely, Donny, what I was saying, the all-time greatest fighters ever, when you talk about the top 10, you'll see most of the in-crowd there, and there'll be the Durans and the Peps and the Archie Moores and the Muhammad Alis and Sugar Ray Leonard. Although I know some historians who put Ray outside of that top 10 because they don't think his resume is deep enough, etc., etc. But what I actually said is, regardless of the brevity of Sugar Ray Leonard's stats, with only 40 fights compared to the centurions like Chavez and double centurions like Willie Pep, etc., I said, did anybody unequivocally beat 4 better names or greater fighters than Ray did in Benitez, Hearns, Hagler, and Duran? That was my only premise. I said, regardless of, and I don't rank him the greatest fighter of all time, but I said, did anybody have 4 better scalps than that, beyond any argument? And I'm not sure if they did. But then you came back and you threw a few other on a different premise, perhaps. But you threw in the names of guys like Calzaghe and Andre Ward. Just generally in the conversation, you said they're not mentioned enough, and that's the dialogue I'm aware of.
Well, okay, yeah. So, like, for example, what are the parameters? And you touched on it. Ray had a relatively short career.
Yeah, in terms of he only has 40 pro fights. Yeah.
Right.
So Duran, most historians will rank Duran higher. They will because he performed for longer. I guess he was more consistent, even though he had some horrible moments. He was more consistently active more than anything else.
He was a natural lightweight at best. Natural lightweight.
Guess what Michael says? He says that it's a fallacy that Duran was at his prime at lightweight. He says his emotional, technical, and physical aspects had not converged until after he was at 147 and beyond. That's his take.
Okay, yeah, but at that point in time, he had like 80 fights.
Yes.
70 fights. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I mean, against legends. Duran, he beat Carlos Palomino his first title, right?
That was
he was a welterweight. He beat Ken Buchanan to become lightweight champion in 1972. He beat Carlos in a non-title fight in 1979. That was testing the waters at 147.
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, he beat legends. Roberto Duran, the guy he lost to Esteban de Jesus, was a great fighter. You know,
absolutely.
He beat him. Sorry, Mike.
Sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say, how many people give Esteban de Jesus? How many people rate Esteban de Jesus in their top 20 greatest lightweights of all time?
Possibly so, Silk. But here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, personally, I would need to think. Some people probably would in the top 20, not in the top 10. I don't think. Some people would have him scrape in the top 20 conceivably, but at the same time, he doesn't have to be there. No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know of any.
Okay. So my point is that at a very light weight, Duran, put it this way, when he beat Sugar Ray Leonard, he was 7-2 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah.
And his loss he avenged against the Jesus. And how many other legends had he beat before and up to then? And 147 to 1
legends he had beaten prior to that would be Palomino, Buchanan. There isn't really another legend, I don't think. I mean, you could say Guts Ishimatsu, but I think you're scraping it a little bit.
Yeah, there aren't any standout. You know what I mean? Like Sal Manby, he beat him. He beat the two brothers. They're
called Viroy.
Yeah, Virouette.
Virouette.
Edwin
Virouette and his brother, like funny guys. They train in our gym there, Michael. Remember?
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yes.
I could have tried their record of 5 decades. I'm talking about Saul Manby and Roberto Duran, the only two guys that fought 5 decades.
They're not Donny. They're not the only two. There's a lot of narratives in boxing that are not true. There's about at least 7 guys who boxed in 5 different decades. Jack Johnson.
Good, I'm glad I didn't bother.
Honestly, we counted them the other day. There's a whole bunch of them. There's about 7 of them. Because
I'd like to see that list. Right? I'd love to see that list. Pardon me?
There's an auctioneer who does white collar shows, yeah? And he hates it when I'm in the crowd because he's trying to sell a painting or a signed glove. And he's like, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Roberto Duran, the only man to box. And I'm there saying, no. And he's like, for God's sake, will you just fuck off with all due respect and let me do my job? You can imagine it, right, Silk? You don't have a hard time.
I can imagine, yeah. I can imagine.
My wife's father has a story. He was a storyteller. He's a comedian. And he says, it's my story. I'll tell it the way I want to.
Yeah.
That's very good. So Donny, I mean, you've had an incredible career. I just want to talk some real quick points with you going over it, and your feelings and get into like the heart of who you are when you fought. What's the hardest fight? Well, first of all, what's the hardest punch you've ever hit anybody with? Do you recall that? Is that in your mind?
I would have to say Eddie Davis when I won the world title.
Yeah.
I mean, I was afraid he was never going to get up. He literally, his arm stayed bent, laying flat. His leg was twitching like I've never seen. And I mean, for a long time, I was really, really afraid for him.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I would say,
Yeah. That was incredible, incredible win.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Davis extended Michael Spinks, right?
Yes.
Extended Michael Spinks big time.
He took him the distance, and everybody, it was a big controversy over who won because everybody in the audience thought Davis won.
Yes.
And so what was really fun for me last year, I was with Michael Spinks.
Yeah.
And we were at a Hall of Fame thing. And I said, hey, did you ever, because we were just talking in general about fighters, and he was talking about the Davis brothers, Johnny and Eddie, and how tough they were, and how hard they were to kind of control, how they had this way of getting in and landing shots, and they hit really hard, and just really tough guys to beat. Didn't matter. He said, yeah, they didn't win their world titles, but I mean, these guys were really, really tough guys.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, well, Eddie gave you a bit of a fight, right? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he starts going on about Eddie Davis. And I said, you're not aware of who I beat to win the title, are you? And he goes, no, I can't say that. I said, Eddie Davis. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah. And I said, right after your fight, well, I mean, 20 months later, his next fight is when I won the world title. He goes, you're kidding. And I said, no. I said, I want to show you the fight. He goes, okay. So I went and got my computer, pulled out and showed him. His eyes were like that. He could have, because he went 50 rounds with the guy, Yeah. And I knew Mike from 1980. Remember, Michael, the 80, was it 83 or something that the BC Lions played?
Yeah,
the Grey Cup or something.
Yeah,
it was a Grey Cup, and we fought the night before or something.
Yes, he fought Oscar Rivadeneira, and we fought.
Yes, he did. I've got the poster right over there.
Yeah, wow, really?
Yeah,
I've never seen the poster. Hold on.
This is pretty.
This is crazy. You got the poster? No way.
Check it out. That's such a cool poster.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow.
I'd be surprised if they didn't say that you're on the card. Live Pacific Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say. November 25th, 83.
Yes.
So, in that training camp, Michael was in Vancouver. I was in Winnipeg before I came to Vancouver, and Butch Lewis and I were talking about me fighting Spinks.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily it didn't happen. But
you say that.
Yeah, just as I was going to get on the plane to go to Vancouver a month before the fight to train with them, Butch said, Oh my God, sorry, my hair. Butch said, Donnie, I just want you to know that Oscar's messing with us and he may not show up. So I just want you to know that if you want the fight, you might be fighting Mike. When you get off the airport, if you get off the airplane, if I start talking like you're fighting him, just go along with it with me in front of the media, because you might be fighting him, you know.
Wow.
And so when I left to go to Vancouver, I didn't know who I was fighting, you know.
Yeah.
So I got to know Michael in that training camp. Venera ultimately came around, and, you know, so we ran together, we trained together, and I mean, it was such an honor for me. It was just unbelievable, you know, like, you know. And so I've known him that long. It's really funny, you know. And of course, I wanted to fight him, not because I didn't like him, because he was a great fighter. He's a you know, Olympic medalist and a world champion and a great fighter. So again, I think it's lucky I didn't, because everybody hit me the left hook, and he had a great one, right? So anyway, I'm sorry, I don't know how I got onto that.
I think you're being very humble, but you know that you would have given him 100% of what you got, and that's going to be considerable. Like the most interesting thing about that fight is you both are, in a way, unorthodox. Like your sense of timing and when you throw and how powerful. Like you both can hit hard with any punch at any time, but you have like this kind of like the locomotion isn't normal, and so having to guard against that it's hard to predict if you've never done it before. So how Michael Spinks trains for you and how you train for Michael Spinks is kind of like is mind blowing. How would you guys be able to do that successfully? Because you want to get somebody who's as close to the attributes as the guy you're going to fight, right?
Yeah.
But who are either one of you going to get for that? Like,
we're both kind of fought in between the rhythm, you would say. You know what I mean? Most guys are rhythmic, and we're like in between that, trying to be anything but that. You know, find the space between that.
They called Spinks herky jerky was the style, the term they used to describe his style.
Yeah.
You know,
right. And also that kind of hesitation and that kind of that kind of timing, that unnatural body timing, I guess, that is so frustrating to a fighter that's used to seeing something normal in front of him. And that's why I thought, like, when Ngannou and Tyson Fury were fighting, it's not the fact that he's never fought anybody like Tyson Fury before. It's the fact that Tyson Fury's never fought anybody like Ngannou's not going for all that feinting stuff because he doesn't know what it means. Like if you feint all the other guys that Tyson Fury fought, and he's feinting and doing all this stuff, and everyone's like frozen and like, oh my God, here comes a punch. And Ngannou hasn't seen that enough to be afraid of it. All he thinks is
right.
Punch.
Very good point.
Well, they don't feint in MMA, no, not really.
No, I don't think they feint with their hands anyway. And it's a boxing.
No, maybe not. Maybe it's the feet they do it with, mate.
Yeah, maybe with the feet or body intent, like you go to grab somebody or something, but he knows it's just punching.
But you see, Usyk, on the other hand, is very traditional, very, very textbook.
Yes.
Which can help him, but can also maybe confuse him with Tyson's offbeat way also.
Yeah. If he respects all those feints, if he respects all that thing he does when he gets in front of you, stepping with the fast feet and keeping you tense, because that's what it does, right, Donnie's like when a guy's feinting a lot, it keeps you tense and focused, and here it comes, and you want to react to it. And
do you know what I find sometimes stops feinting? I defer to you two, obviously, for massively obvious reasons. And sometimes it does annoy me when someone who had a handful of elements to fight starts saying, hey, you know what I do, guys? So I don't want to be trying to seem delusional or patronizing, but one thing I find helps with someone who feints a lot, you know, you put your hands down, like literally don't have a guard and rely on the upper body, which is it's obviously a little bit cocky and you're being a little bit devil may care. But I find a lot of fighters stop fainting at someone who's got his hands by his sides. Do you know what I mean? Because they're trying to get your hands moving, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I mean, obviously, you've got to be careful because you can't just box with your hands down by your sides for obvious reasons most of the time. But I find it will inhibit the fighter if you drop your guard.
Because the dominant thought is you want to hit somebody. So all of a sudden, if a guy drops his hands, the man who's feinting and doing all that is like, okay, I get the chance to hit him. So all of a sudden, he just solidifies. He stops his feinting and he tries to actually, at that point.
Right. Well, that's why I would drop my hand. Because I want him to throw a punch. I want him to think he can hit me.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then when you know a guy is like on the edge of throwing a punch and he's just about to because he thinks he's going to hit you, that's when you can counter, right? Or when you can take a step to the side, make him miss by a lot, make him think twice next time, like Michael said. All of a sudden, you've got a meeting out of your hand because he's thinking instead of boxing.
And also, my man Lalonde thinks high guard is overrated too. The jab is overrated, size is overrated, the high guard is overrated, the reach is overrated.
I think the high guard is ridiculous. Yeah, I was in Malta. They teach the people to fight like this. Yes. I mean, how do you throw a punch like this? Like that? I mean, like, come on.
You're so right, Donny. That's what I say to novices that I teach. Get them at your shoulder level where you're comfortable to punch from. I said, if you need to block, lift your hands up, catch them, but don't wear them here, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would say even forget your hands to avoid punches. Use your feet, use your waist, use your movements, your ducking, your, you know. Yeah. I mean, I see guys like standing there, like say anywhere, getting hit, and I'm thinking like, geez, I mean, just take a step. You know, I mean, sure, the other guy can step with you, but it's pretty hard to.
Yeah,
it's very different to hit a moving target than a heavyweight. You know, so I just never understood the putting your hands up. Like, I mean, you know, of course,
some guys like Winky Wright, they have very long from the elbow to the top of their fist. They have exceptionally long arms, so they can they'll do this, but then there are fighters that are intelligent that could punch around it. It's guys that aren't very experienced in boxing.
You know, Silk, Winky Wright liked those Grant gloves because they were so big and long, and he could do that with them, you know. But if you're going to go up close to somebody, you've got to put your hands up. If you're going to go inside, or you're going to walk right up to a guy at that range, but
not at all. Not at all. You just have to have your feet in the right place and your angle. You have to be angled properly, you know.
Yes.
It's all about angles and footwork.
Yes.
But if you're going to walk up straight up to somebody and go inside on them, I think you need to have your hands up most of the time.
Well, then you should do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. So sometimes you've got one hand up and one hand low, right? And you've got your shoulder there. Well,
yeah.
But I'm talking about proper inside, like you really are inside now. You're no range at all short punches.
When I'm inside, I'm not standing there blocking a shot. Are you kidding? I'm like grabbing an elbow, turning him, pushing a shoulder, you know, grabbing his head, doing anything but standing there blocking.
You're never fighting with two hands. Then you're always manipulating with one hand and punching with the other.
Finesse with one hand.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a nicer word than manipulate, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a nicer word. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was always about, look, give the guy angles and doubt. Mm-hmm. With angles, doubt, and footwork, it's really hard for a guy to be on his game. You know, Michael, when I fought Roddy McDonald for the Canadian Championship, guy was 23 and 1 and 21 knockouts. He was a very big puncher. Not a world class guy. He fought Marvin Campbell. Marvin Campbell knocked him out, I think, in the first round.
Yeah,
but he was a world class fighter.
Yes,
you could say something like that. I only had 12 or 14. I think I was 13-1, 14 fights when I fought him. And, everybody thought I was going to get destroyed because he was such a big puncher and all that kind of stuff. And my whole fight plan going in was literally do nothing until he moves, ever. Wow. And when he moves, adjust and never allow him within reach to reach me, but I had to be in reach to reach him.
Yeah.
But again, that's a counter puncher's mind.
Yes.
You got other people that are like, they lead and they put combinations together and they're, that's their fight. And other guys, like you say, he's coming down short, he's coming in, he's trying to bomb you out of there or put combinations together to the body, to the head, all that stuff. I was just like, geez, it just seems so simple to me. Make a guy miss, he's wide open, and hit him.
Yeah.
And then, it was so fun.
Yeah.
Go on, try to hit me. Go ahead here. I'll put my hand behind my back. Do whatever you want to. Try to hit me. Boom. And then you hit him back. And it was just like fun, The whole thing was fun to me, the whole time.
It's beautiful. Let me ask you another thing. What opponent did you dislike the most? Of all the opponents you fought, who did you dislike the most and why?
I have a hard time disliking people because, you look through all the bravado and all the rudeness and the this and that, and you realize it's just a kid trying to, make himself feel really strong and important,
Yeah.
But number two, I would say that I like the least, you could say.
Yeah.
And one of them was Jimmy Gradson, who fought. George Chuvalo had Gradson. He was the number one contender. I was a Canadian champion after the McDonald fight.
Yeah.
I had done one other defense first, but anyway. And then George Chuvalo brought in Jimmy Gradson. Jimmy Gradson, Eddie Mello had these, legendary wars in Toronto, and Jimmy Gradson was never off his feet. He had 43 fights when we fought. He was 38-5, and I was 14-1, something like that, 14, 15-1.
Yeah.
And so, of course, everybody thought he was too tough. He was going to beat me up, Yeah. I was so scared because, first of all, it's the only time I ever had sex close to a fight also.
Yeah.
And I really believed old boxing adages, 30 years old, welterweight and smaller, they're burnt out, they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sex before a fight, you're done,
Correct. Yep.
And I don't know why this happened, but I mean, like, not too far from the fight. And it was the guy who for sure was going to take me the distance, So in the dressing room, I was so nervous, I literally could barely stand up. And my trainer was like, come on, get ready to fight. I said, fight? Was it 15 rounds? Yeah, probably back then. I was like, I can't even imagine standing up for that long, let alone fighting for that long. I'm going to sit down till it starts. My legs are so weak because I was all in my head. I'm just thinking, oh my God, why would I do this, to myself? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the fight went well for me. But he was kind of a real nasty guy. Like George Chuvalo was his manager, and the legendary George Chuvalo, and one of the most respected fighters in the game ever, as far as toughness and resilience and durability and skill. He was not unskilled. So the kid come in. I'm also promoting it. So I've got other people working, and so I tell the guys, you make sure he gets his gym time and he's got good sparring. And I want you to take care of him like he's me, like take good care of him. I want this to be fair. And they would be trying to get him to go to the gym. He'd be like, and they're like, George says you need to get to the gym and you need to do this. And you need to, he's like, fuck George Foreman. Fuck, I don't give a fuck what he said. Just like, he was just so rude in every situation, And I just thought, I don't like this guy. Here's a guy, one of the first guys I've ever not liked fighting.
Yeah.
I knocked him down 3 times and out in 90 seconds of the fight.
And you think that definitely had something to do with it? The fact you didn't like him made you a little more aggressive towards him?
No, I don't think I didn't do that. He just walked. He just was the guy. He thought he was so tough he was going to walk through anything. Yeah. And he walked right into a perfectly timed right hand, and then 2 more, and it was over. Like literally over.
Yeah.
So the other guy was Bobby Ches.
Wow.
Yeah, you like Bobby?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just didn't like the way he talked. He talks like he thinks he's like, I'm what's that called? He's Mensa. Yeah, I'm Mensa. I'm the super intelligent guy, and nobody else is anything but me. And I can play poker until 4 a.m. and still fight Charles Williams, like a great fighter. The arrogance and I just thought he was arrogant and rude, which was things that rubbed me the wrong way.
And, you had a bunch of questions all in advance. People asking for your memories of fighting Wilbert.
No, let him finish first. Let him finish the story.
Yeah. So I just thought Bobby was a rude, arrogant person, Yeah. And I mean, that being said, I've had people doing these interviews saying, you were so freaking cocky. I mean, you were so arrogant. No. To me, I'm like, no, I don't think I was arrogant.
Yeah.
No, I think back to what I said. No, I don't think I was arrogant. I was just confident. I mean, I just thought, like, I hit anybody with this right hand. I mean, I just destroy people with it. Like, I'm afraid when I hit people with it.
Yeah.
So I was only like that because I was confident. I was like, geez, I mean, I don't care what you say. If I hit you once, it's over. I went and let Marvin Johnson was known as the toughest guy in the boxing gym, but knocked out people all the time, blah, blah, blah. And when the first time I went there, literally, I was the only white guy in the gym. It was packed. And they were like, son, you're in the wrong part of town. You need some directions. What's up? And I said, no, I came here to box. They go, really? Who do you want to box? I said, Marvin Johnson. And they're like, what? Okay. I mean, he'll be here tomorrow. You can box him, And because I was from Canada. I'm white. I'm skinny. Long, dyed blonde hair. I mean, well, back then I didn't have that when I first went to him. Anyway, that Golden Boy hadn't come out yet. Oh no. Anyway, I don't remember. No, I don't think it had. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So the whole gym literally went quiet when we started boxing.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like almost eerie because everybody stopped hitting the speed bay, all that stuff. Yeah. And it was all like kind of, you could just sort of feel everybody just couldn't wait for him just to knock this white kid out, right? And I mean, and we talk like that nowadays because I can say that nowadays because back then we could talk like that and nobody was offended. It was just like, that's just what we were.
It is.
And so anyway, I catch him with the right hand, on the button. And you see Marvin's legs go like that, and his whole body sort of slump, and the whole gym was just like, you could hear them like, whoa, like just respond, Yeah. And from that point on, I had no problem getting respect in the gym, Yeah. So the thing is, it didn't matter who it was. I boxed a guy named Shazan Bradley, 15-0, 15 knockouts, 245 pounds. Number one, whatever in fullback for Tennessee Titans or whatever they were. Yeah. No, it was a college team in Knoxville. But anyway, I didn't think twice about boxing this guy. Yeah. And I did well with him. He never hurt me. I boxed Lennox Lewis. Yeah. I boxed anybody. Wow. Because I just felt anybody I hit, it hurts, seems to hurt. So, I don't care how big they are, So, I was arrogant, for sure. But it wasn't because of it, because I was an asshole. I was just like, geez, go ahead, try, Yeah. So far, I just hit people, and that's what happened. So, nobody's scaring me.
Yeah. Power is the great equalizer. Power is a great equalizer and can chill any situation and make you dominant. And especially if, if you know how to get it from point A to point B, which is what you did very well. You know where you wanted to detonate that right hand, and it hit. That was all.
If you walk into a ring knowing if you hit the guy right, he's going to sleep.
Yeah,
that's a very different feeling than going in knowing no matter how much you hit him, he's still going to be there all night.
Yeah. That's why I can't understand how crazy it must be for people who are not punchers. Like statistically, everyone should be able to punch, but there are people with like a, 30% KO percentage. And how do you go into a fight thinking, like knowing that fight is going to go the distance every single time? And
the best I can do is outpoint him.
Yeah.
Well, Barry Jones. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy called Barry Jones, who was WBO super featherweight champion in the mid-90s. He won his title the same weekend that Nassim Hamed fought Kevin Kelly in New York. But Barry was a world champion. He lost his title to a name you may have heard of. He lost his championship to Acilino Freitas, the Brazilian fighter.
Okay, he had Freitas,
at one point. Okay. So Barry Jones never scored a KO in his professional boxing career in his life. And he jokes, because he's a self-effacing cool guy, he jokes about his lack of power. He obviously was doing something right, and he could box because he's successful at world level. But he couldn't. He never scored a KO. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you get guys like that who are just resolutely non-punchers, as opposed to we got bigger punchers and bigger punchers. Most pros can punch a bit, but when you get these guys who've hardly ever scored a KO, but they've gotten to top level, it's weird, huh?
Yeah, I don't know how you don't punch. I don't know how you cannot hurt somebody.
But you weren't the puncher Donny was, were you?
Donny was different. The way I didn't set my feet, like Donny would set his feet, he let you know that, you know what I mean?
He was noted as a puncher, whereas you were noted, we're generalizing, but you were noted as a boxer with the style and profile.
I think I was more noted as, because people saw the image before they saw the ability.
It wasn't that you couldn't punch.
There wasn't anybody that I hit that I didn't hurt or drop. Let's put it that way. So for them to say, and if you look at my record on BoxRec, for instance, I have I have a 70% KO average or something.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with your punching power, Michael, but Donny was noted as a KO and a
banger. Yeah, absolutely.
He was more noted for it.
Yeah, but it was a different. We had different ways.
One difference might be Michael was very athletic and very healthy and very strong, from what I know, and so he didn't have to rely on one thing. Like I had a very broken down body, very broken down. Like, I mean, I was destroyed before I started boxing from hockey and from football when I was a kid before that. I mean, knocked out many times from football, you know, torn up shoulders, torn up knee, like just beat up body. And so boxing to me, I mean, it was a miracle that I could get in a boxing ring and get out of it. And, you know, and I was always hurt and I was always recovering from injuries. So I didn't have a choice to be in a rough fight. You know, I had to box in such a way that, you know, and so, I mean, and also this is like before I won a world title, which was my ultimate dream, I was careful but aggressive. After I won it, after the, even just after the Davis fight, even if you watch the Hill fight, I did a lot less movement because I was ready to just say, hey, I've already done my thing. Now I get to have some fun. Now I can stand in here and go have a few wars, because if I lose, I lose, but I was a world champion. You know,
already accomplished what you set out to do. So, yeah.
Sorry?
I said you'd already accomplished what you set out to do, so you felt a little more secure in terms of a bit more risk taking.
Yeah, I fought a little bit different, like quite a bit differently, actually. And I don't know if it was better for me or not better for me, but I enjoyed it more. You know, I was more effective moving because people were not used to that kind of movement, and created tremendous openings for the right hand. And it left me very defensive because when you're moving that much, you don't have to be so close to a guy, you know? So I didn't have a choice like Michael had to be the great technique guy, because I was so in my left shoulder, I couldn't exterior rotate my hand beyond straight ahead. I couldn't do this.
I remember that.
If you can't do that, you can't do this.
No,
you end up doing that.
I remember it distinctly when we were sparring, and it's interesting, and that's what gave me like such
my left hand was on and on.
Yeah, your left hand was hard to time because it was coming from somewhere where it wouldn't usually come from, and you still hit hard with it. Like, it was still stiff when it hit you. So it was kind of like confusing to me, because I'm used to punches coming at me conventionally, and because they were coming at me conventionally, I could do things off it, but I had to hesitate a lot because they were from different angles, but they were still hard. You still had power behind it. So it's like some things are like.
But if you and I would have had,
Say again. Sorry, you broke up for a sec.
The bag where people hit the bag and it tells you how hard you hit.
Yeah.
You know, people never believe I was a boxer if I hit that. I've never hit one, but I know it wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
Because my punching power came mainly from timing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's why what you said even about a jab.
Yeah.
I didn't have, like, if I stood in front of a heavy bag and threw a jab and you threw a jab and there was something to measure it, they would say, Michael jabs twice as hard as Donny.
Yeah.
But if I time it just right, where you think you're going to land your jab, and you're just like a fraction of an inch, you're not, and I'm going to first.
Yeah.
And I have my arm primed just to be straight or just right at that point of contact where you want it. You know what I mean? There's very specific ways to
enhance
to deliver power.
Yes.
At least it was for me. Because again, I'm not a big muscle guy with big strong like that. I punched with, I had to use a tremendous amount of finesse.
Yeah.
But early in my career, I was a boxer, like as an amateur.
Yeah.
And then when I tore my rotator cuff for the second time in hockey, they put a screw in it.
Yeah.
And then I broke my hand in my 5th boxing match, professional. My trainer, Peter Piper, said, Donny, you got to learn how to knock people out with one punch. I mean, there's no way with this body you can fight. And I said, I agree. So how do we do that? Okay, you know.
Here's the one thing that a lot of people don't realize with injuries. It's like, especially as a boxer, once you injure yourself, you're kind of just treading water. You aren't growing anymore. You can't really learn. You're in almost like you're in a survival mode. You're stuck in, and you have to make do with what you know what I mean? You're trying to develop new weapons.
Well, that's one option, but my other option, which was my only option, which is I had to develop something. I had to develop punching power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to forget, kind of in a sense. I don't know if you heard, like if you watched when I fought and won the world title, or no, when I fought Leonard, I'm sorry, Tommy Gallagher screaming. shove that left hand up your ass or something like that. Like, fuck the left hand, throw the right hand, throw the right hand. You know, all he thought I should do is throw a right hand. But if you ask Ray, I hurt him a lot with my left hand.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I had a smart left hand, but not an orthodox left hand.
Yeah.
So again, so when it comes down to like punching power and all that kind of stuff, I really think a lot of it has to do with IQ, boxing IQ. You know, because I boxed strong guys like Bobby Chaz hit me with a left hook and knocked me down for sure. I didn't know my own name for 5 rounds. But besides that, he never hurt me in the fight.
Yeah.
You know, he hit me with shots, but they didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
And he was strong. He wasn't like the greatest knockout puncher, but at 200 pounds on steroids or whatever he was to get that big, he was strong and he hit me hard, you know, with that one shot.
Yeah.
But other than that, it just felt like a club, you know, like I say, there's punching heavy-handed guys, and then there's knockout guys. You know, and a heavy-handed guy will knock you across the ring, but he's not going to knock you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might beat you up till you get knocked out, till you quit or the ref stops it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that kind of a puncher. I was like, hey, like I remember I fought a guy, Don Hurdle, for the Canadian title I defended just before Gradson. And the interviewer said, how do you fight a friend, especially when you're a knockout puncher? And I said, well, look, the way I'll do it is it's going to be a boring fight. I mean, I'm basically not going to hit him till I get that opening. I'm going to knock him out with one shot. In 10 seconds, he's going to stand up. I'm going to give him a hug. We're going to go for a beer, you know. And that's exactly what happened. You know, I barely hit him with anything because I just didn't want to even hit him. I didn't want to hurt his brain or whatever, you know. Yeah. So I just kept away and just tap him here or there to throw this and that. And then I waited for the right time. He reached out with the 2 jab.
George Foreman said that about Michael Moorer. He said, I believe they waived the 3 knockdown rule. And he said to Larry Merchant in the post-fight interview, I think I could have put him down 3 times earlier than this, but I knew I couldn't rely on that. So I just had to hit him once and take him out. Larry Merchant said, I'm not sure I understand the logic of that, George, but you've always had your own. But he was saying, you know, because of no 3 knockdown rule, I decided I was just going to wait and hit him once, and that was going to be that, you know, so.
That's unfortunately what I did in the Leonard fight. After I knocked him down, I thought, I'm just going to wait and hit him once. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so easy. He's a welterweight. I can't knock at a welterweight, hit him in the chin, you know. So I waited. If you look at it from the knockdown on, I fought a totally different fight than the knockdown before. Because the knockdown before, I had to set him up to land the punch and beat him up for trying to get inside.
Then
after that, it was just
sorry, go ahead.
Then after the knockdown, it was just just wait. You'll hit him with one on the chin, it'll be over. Because I hit him too high, I thought, you know.
During that fight, the Leonard fight, did he hit you at any point that made you say, "Oh, you know what? It's not he can crack"? Like, is there anything? Did anything happen?
5th or 6th round, hit me with the overhand right.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, yep, he can hit. But I had the experience of boxing Daryl Anthony, who's the one on the Mark Breland's record of 110-1 amateur fights.
Yes.
110 wins and 1 loss. Daryl Anthony was the guy who beat him.
Yes.
So I was sparring him one time as a welterweight.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit me with a jab, and literally my legs went. I saw like a whole bunch of people. I didn't know I was like all messed up, and I thought, oh my God, he's a welterweight, and hit me with a jab, and look what it did to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I could take a shot. Like I said, I fought big guys that hit me with big bombs, and it didn't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when I got stopped in a fight, or every time when I got stopped in a fight, it was because of exhaustion, because I always overtrained. You know, I overran, I oversparred, and, you know, I just liked running and sparring too much.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't because of my chin, you know. But when Daryl hit me, he messed me up with the jab. And I realized a welterweight can hurt me. I wasn't saying Ray couldn't hurt me. I was saying, a welterweight can hurt me. What can I do to a welterweight?
Yeah.
As a puncher. I just fought Leslie Stewart, who was a good fighter. Yeah. And you know, we had a good war, and I hit him with a lot of good shots. I'm thinking if I can hit him with that, I can hit Ray. I mean, there's no way, you know. And Eddie Davis just went 15 with Michael Spinks.
Yeah.
I mean, I was afraid how much I hurt him when I hit him. Right. So I'm thinking a welterweight, like, it just made no sense to me that Ray would even get in that ring. Bob Dylan tapped me on the shoulder when I was on my dressing room. What's that called? Massage table in my dressing room. And Dave Wolf, Bob Dylan's sitting there, and he hits my shoulder like that. And Dave Wolf walks over and he goes, Donny, you can believe the fight's going to happen. Ray's in the ring. Get up. Time to get in the ring. I was lying down on the massage table thinking, one day he's or like, and any moment he's going to wake up and say, I'm not getting in that ring. I'm fighting a light heavyweight who can punch. I just thought like he's nuts, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. So you were on the massage table. You weren't getting a massage, or you were?
No, I was just kind of sleep, you know, before a fight. You've done all your warming up. You've done all that, and you're just waiting for the guy to get in the ring. I decided I was going to lie down, and I kind of like dozed off, you know?
Yeah.
But,
that's crazy.
because you get relaxed. I mean, I got very relaxed before fights.
Okay.
That was for me, I thought that was an advantage to be relaxed, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't like hyped up.
Yeah. Man, that's interesting.
And then when you get in the ring, you get excited. You know, as soon as I stepped in the ring, I felt like I came alive.
I remember Alan Minter talking about even in his amateur fights. He said he never had any trouble having a nap beforehand and would often be woken up and people would say, okay, you're on. Personally, I couldn't relate to that. It was too animated, too nervous, too mindful of what was going to be happening. But some fighters are blessed with that ability to relax, I think, and like say, perhaps nod off before a fight. Could you do it, Silk?
No, I couldn't. I mean, yes, in a way, but no, probably. I can't remember doing anything like that.
You might have shut your eyes to shut things out and made out that you didn't want to talk to anybody, but you were not asleep.
Yeah. I just kind of like, I'd like to flow with the energy, and once I got there, like I prefer to shadow box and hit the mitts for like the hour that I'm in the dressing room before going into the ring than anything else, than doing nothing. It really bothers me when I did nothing before a fight. But Donny, let me ask you, what opponents did you think, or do you have any opponents that you think going in you would lose to, but you actually beat? Like, was there anybody you thought, I can't beat him, and you went and fought him and you beat him?
I mean, honestly, I was obviously arrogant or something. I just always went into a fight thinking, I mean, anything can happen, of course. And I was nervous before, like I said, the one with that kid I fought for the Canadian belt when I broke the golden rule before the fight. That fight, I was nervous as hell. That's the only very few times I was nervous before a fight. But you know what? I trained religiously. Yes. I did everything exactly how I read Muhammad Ali said you're supposed to do it. You know, I really felt when I was walking into a ring, I was ready.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I never thought, like, I never went in thinking, geez, what am I doing getting in this ring? You know, I thought, what's he doing getting in the ring?
Yeah.
You know, so that is arrogance, I guess, you know, but again, I hurt people in the gym. I mean, I hurt people all the time sparring and fighting. And so I literally felt like dangerous.
Yeah.
You know,
so, of course. Yeah.
And I didn't get hit that much.
Yeah.
Unless I sparred this guy named Silk in New York one day. I mean, he bit me about 114-1.
That's not even true.
Something like that.
How cool would it be to have some footage of that these days? Because these days people film everything. Someone in your camp would have filmed that on a phone, even, or whatever.
Yeah, probably not. There's a lot of people there.
All I remember was the breeze from that right hand just skinning me. I was like, okay. And Teddy Atlas yelling, he was screaming.
You said it was like fighting two of them, I believe.
Yeah, he was so hyped. I was like, okay. Okay, so let me ask you, if you could have one moment back in your career, what would it be, and how would you make it different? If you could have any moment back in your boxing career,
when I was walking back to the ring. And that one moment was like literally exactly the same. And when I lost to Willie Edwards and Ray Leonard, 9th round, knocked them both down in the 4th round. Yeah. Ray cleverly had Willie come to my training camp in Caesars about a week before the fight, probably just to remind me.
Oh, Jesus.
And I knocked Edwards down in the 4th round. It looked like he was barely got up. I thought, next time I hit this guy, it's over. Yeah. And of course, same thing happened. 9th round, I got caught with my hands down, left hook. Although he had brass knuckles on, it's a whole other story. But the one with, and then so it would be that moment when I walked back from knocking down Ray, of course, more so than the Edwards fight. If I beat Edwards, I would have got Michael Spinks my next fight.
Yes.
But after when I knocked Ray down and I walked back to the corner, that moment, if I had just gone, back. Right, to stick to the game plan, stick to the fight plan, or another moment in that fight, right near the end, if you look, I go down from the first time Ray knocks me down. I go down, and I get up, and he's walking across the ring, and you can see me on the camera, and I kind of look at him and nod, and in my head I'm like, I'm fucked. I've got nothing left, and I'm like, yeah, he's got me, but I could have just easily thought, get on your bike, or stick that jab, or like do anything. You know what I mean? Like that thought puts you in that place, and you allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Versus stopping that thought and changing it. You know.
Yeah. I see. Well, guys, let's talk about this for a second. It's like lighter weight guys that can punch. Guys who could punch. Who could punch at lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, whatever. They could punch at any weight. Do you believe me?
My daughter can punch.
Who are we talking about?
Her. Bailey. I mean, her boyfriend didn't believe she could punch. She knocked him down when she hit him. He hit a car like against the wall. He went, holy shit, how the hell did you do that, little girl? You know?
Yeah.
Because if you know how to punch, you know how to punch.
You know how to punch. So when you're sparring, I mean, I'm sure you were lighter and you sparred with heavyweights, right? Yeah, and you sparred with heavyweights, and when you hit them, you hurt them, right?
That's what I mean. Like, I mean, I boxed Lennox Lewis.
Yes.
I know when I hit him, it hurt him because he hit me really hard after. I was that guy Shazan Bradley, 15 knockouts, like literally built like Hercules. Could punch like a freaking mule.
Yeah.
And I hit it. He told me after, he goes, Jesus, I mean, you know, you really hit me. That's why I hit you so hard. I go, that's all right. That's why we're in here, you know. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So there's something, it's much more to it than like a lot of people think because a guy's bigger in weight, he's naturally is going to defeat somebody, smaller. There are advantages.
Living proof.
Yeah,
living proof. That's not true.
It doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, it does not always go that way, and it's because like force is force. Like it doesn't matter if you're 102. If you could turn your whole body 125 pounds, if you're 125 pounds and you learn to punch properly with all your body behind a punch, if you hit a bigger man on the chin, it's not like he's not going to feel it because he's.
Well, they always used to say guys like Jimmy Wilde that knock down much bigger fighters in sparring, and even in the court, Harry Greb beat a lot of bigger guys like heavyweights. He was a middleweight and a light heavyweight himself. You know, Sam Langford, famously, who somebody earlier up the comments said that he is the #1 greatest fighter in history. Some people believe that about Langford, and they base it on a resume. But he's supposed to have, never weighed much more than 140 pounds.
Rocky Marciano.
Sure, I mean Rocky, his resume is spotless, and he fought, but he wasn't fighting in an era of supersized heavyweights, was he?
Well, they were like 30, 40 pounds bigger than him. It's still a lot of weight.
Who were? No, some of them were not. Joe
no,
Lewis
not all. But I mean, Joe Lewis. Rocky was 185. Joe Lewis was 210, right?
Huh?
Sorry.
Who else?
I said. Rocky was what, 185? Yeah, the other guys were 210, 220.
But you know what they say? They say he trained down to that weight because he thought he had to be really fit and lean to have the fitness and the endurance to fight at the incredible pace he fought at. He said he was a bigger. His nephew. I think you guys know him, Louis J. Marciano, who is on social media and he does talk to us sometimes. Yeah. He says he pointed to a show in the 60s with Floyd Patterson and Rocky on it. And he said, you can see that Rocky is a much bigger man than Floyd Patterson. He was arguing. He said he would train down and boil down to that weight that he came in at, Rocky, but because he felt it was important.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes sense. Like I said, when I saw Chaz about a week before our fight. Our weight class was 200 pounds at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking he's a middleweight. How the hell is he going to be weighing 200 pounds without being fat, Yeah, I wasn't thinking about things that make your muscles grow that keep you thin. And I saw him running, about a week before our fight, trying to cut weight in Vegas in a very, very hot time in May. And he just had a pair of shorts on. He looked like a freaking brick shithouse, and I just thought, oh my God. I saw the Bobby Joe's before,
you think he may have been chemically assisted.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you at like 20, I don't know how old he was, say 30 years old. How do you at 30 years old effectively gain 40 pounds? I don't know how to do it. Like I know quite a bit about the body. I know quite about how our body works and nature. And I'm a very healthy person. I know a lot about weight gain, weight loss, all that stuff. I don't think it's possible to do. Michael Pink did it over a 2-year period.
Can we talk about performance enhancing drugs insofar as how much of a factor you think they are today, and how much of a factor you think they were in your era and developing from those years? How big a thing do you think it is?
I didn't even know anything about it, honestly, until late in my career. And I was like, I was invited to play to be in the Rocky movie after the Leonard fight, to be the one that Tommy Morrison was.
Yeah.
And I said to Sly, you know, you have to do like a screen test where they see your skin color and all that, so they can do all the thing with camera. And I said, Sly, you know what? Because I thought he would want me to gain weight and be a heavyweight and do steroids. So I said, you know what, Sly, why don't we just go for a beer? I don't want to do this movie. Yeah. And so I didn't, you know, because I just thought the only way you can gain weight is steroids. I don't know anybody. I still today don't know anybody who has gained weight effectively who has not used steroids. I mean, how the heck?
Michael Spinks did when he fought Larry Holmes, right?
Like that, but he did that over a 2-year period, and he did it with a very sophisticated plan, a huge meal program, weight training program. I mean, very, very specific, and over a period of time, you could see it happen. It didn't happen.
It wasn't 2 years, but it was scientific, yeah.
Yeah, it was over quite a period of time, because he started that right after when he decided he was going to go heavyweight. He got with Mackie Shillstone, and it took him a long time to get that big.
He was on a meticulous diet. He was doing lots of sprints and not so much long road work. He was doing a lot of weight training and explosive drills. And Shillstone put 25 pounds of muscle on him without taking away his athleticism.
Donny, do you believe Michael had to gain that much weight to fight Larry Holmes? Do you think it made that much difference?
Here he goes again. Go on.
Well,
I mean, your point is very valid, and he may not have needed to. You know, he probably absorbed punches better, you know, with a bit more weight, I would think, because you've got a little more substance to hold yourself together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the end, you're probably right. He may not have needed to. You know, it's a very good point.
Yeah,
I really definitely wouldn't dispute that point. Like I said, Daryl Anthony made me see triple.
Yeah,
and I had major punchers hit me that didn't do that to me.
But the thing is, Michael Spinks couldn't put a dent in Larry Holmes even at 199 pounds, or he weighed in at. Holmes looked like someone who was getting bit by mosquitoes.
Let me tell you something. If he caught Larry right with that left uppercut, that Spinks jinx he had, if he caught Larry under the chin or the nose with that punch, like he had that left uppercut.
Michael, quickly, I hate to be pedantic, but you know me by now. The Spinks jinx was his right hand. The Spinks jinx was his overhand right.
The Spinks jinx was also his left uppercut.
No, it wasn't. And we can prove this in a court of law.
I'm going to say it was the right hand also. It was the right hand. He had the Spinks jinx, which was his right hand, but he also had a great left hook.
He had a great left hook and a great left uppercut, but that wasn't the Spinks jinx. Like Marciano could punch with both hands, but Suzy Q was his right hand.
Suzy Q was the overhand right. Suzy Q was the overhand right.
And so was the Spinks jinx. Go on, carry on.
Well, okay. Well, I'll speak to Mike and I'll ask him.
Yeah, okay. You know, we can do that. But you were saying you think he would, if he'd have caught Larry Holmes sweet, he would have still had a big impact on him.
Of course. I mean, come on. It's like Michael Spinks would hit him in the face and he wouldn't swell up.
He was.
You got to think about it. You got to think about this, you guys. We're talking about two of the greatest fighters of our era. Yeah. Michael Spinks, I mean, gold medalist, multiple time heavyweight champion, defended a million times against great fighters. Like, I mean, you know, Marvin Johnson was considered a very tough guy. He first two-time world champion, beat some very, very good fighters, and many people other than Michael Spinks beat were very good fighters. Yeah. You know,
Spinks might have been the greatest light heavyweight ever. He might be number one light heavyweight in history.
I mean, you got Archie Moore and Michael Spinks. Who else would it be? I don't know. You know.
No, you got Bob Foster, you got Ezra Charles, you got Gene Tunney, you got Harry Greb. There's a bunch of them in the. There's about 5 of them.
And any one of those three could have even been more so than the others. You're right. You know, that's the thing about the greatest of all time. I mean, you know, there's so many different. What are the parameters? How do you define that?
If you want me to give you a quick answer, and it's obviously, I do agree with you that it's kind of unsolvable to an extent. But, and I kind of like what Russell Pelt says when he says, taking all the divisions, he said, I think there may be this framework where you could postulate the 100 greatest fighters in history, but there's a couple of guys you could swap around in the bottom 10 or 15 or 20, you know, but he says he doesn't do the greatest of all time, and he doesn't do top 10s or anything. But if you say what you rank greatness on, I say you rank it basically on who you fought, who you beat, you know, so your level of competition. And I think you base it on the prime losses, who beat you in and around your prime.
Look at Roberto Duran beating Iran Barkley, who beat Tommy Hearns twice.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and Duran beat him. He's a freaking monster compared to Duran. A monster compared to Duran. Duran was like this big, and Barkley was that big, you know.
Yeah.
Barkley hit Duran with a left hook, and Duran's whole body turned around and he was facing the other direction. You know, but not everybody can do that. But he had the balls, the guts, the heart, the chin, the mind, all the things you don't see. Duran did. Few people have that.
Before the fight, he said to Barkley, "Yes, you are bigger than me. Yes, you are stronger than me. But I know more than you." And that's
and he's right.
Yeah,
and he's tougher. He's the toughest guy, one of the toughest guys who ever fought in boxing, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, so many people, you know, the fights this guy was in. And, you know, again, you guys, we're talking about Duran. I mean, he's like post 30 years old in most of his greatest fights.
Yeah.
And like I say, at 120, 135 pound lightweight guys, they didn't fight past 30 years old. Well, you know,
no, you were considered. Well, that's one thing that's changed in this era. For whatever reason, I suspect there's a few reasons for it, but you were long in the tooth at 30 in some of the lower weight divisions or any division back in the day. Whereas nowadays, you're not. Most of the leading fighters are over 30.
Huh? Nowadays, it's your prime, and that's the way it should be.
Yes, absolutely. Is that because they don't have as many hard fights and they've improved certain training techniques?
I believe that's partly why. I think part of it's because they don't have nearly as many fights. They don't spar nearly as much.
Yes.
You know.
So they last longer.
Yeah.
And
some of it probably is down to performance enhancing drugs as well.
And it's managerial, like they take the easiest route to get you there. And then you get your super fights later on. But so Donny, did you answer my question about the moments in your career? What would it be if you could have one moment back in your career? What moment would it be, and how would you make it different? You answered that.
Like I said, the moment would be when I walked back to my corner and I thought, next time I hit Ray, this is over. And I totally changed my fight plan to make the right hand land, make an opening, create an opening and land it, to wait for an opening.
Yeah.
Ray picked that up in the 5th round, about a minute and a half into it. And all of a sudden you could see he started playing around and doing all this and that because he realized I wasn't doing anything.
Uh-huh.
I was walking forward a little bit, but I wasn't before that I was leading. I was making the fight happen. After that, I was waiting for the fight to happen. And that changed my fight plan, completely changed the fight. Ray could not get inside without getting hit. Sorry?
I was going to say, the thing about that fight, that kind of defining moment that you wish you could have back, I take it that your reason for would be purely for the personal achievement of beating Sugar Ray Leonard, because in terms of the financial difference it would have made to you, I don't think you set a lot of store by that nowadays, do you? Because you have a certain view about the money you earned and what happened to it and what would have happened to it even if you'd have earned more, like twice as much.
Well, one thing what might have been different if I had continued fighting is I would not have thought to do anything with money because I was focused on boxing. Whereas when I retired with money, my focus became managing my money, which I had no education to do.
Yeah, that's the crazy.
Whereas if I was still fighting, I wouldn't have been like, hey, I want to be a money manager. I'd have been like, I'm just going to focus on my boxing. I'm making enough money, I don't have to worry about it. Like my next fight would have been Tommy Hearns for $10 million. Even after I lost, it would have been Tommy Hearns for $10 million had I beat Dennis Andres, which was my next scheduled fight. Trump was promoting it, and I pulled out of it, and so I think it could have made a difference in the sense that my whole life sort of focus changed. But I was done. Before I put all my gear away for the last time training at a Leonard fight, I told my brother I will never put boxing gear on again. I'm so done with it. Not that I didn't love boxing, but I was so beat up. I was so beat up physically. Like I had so many injuries. It was just, And then the Leonard fight, I had my larynx crushed.
Yeah.
You got hit.
So that made me very, very vulnerable even more, which I thought I would never fight again. Well, if I had, anybody with any brains would never fight again.
You fought for
the doctor told me you get hit there once and you're dead. He goes, your larynx is almost closed now. You get to hit there once, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, who gets it right? You know.
Yeah. That's
He fought for another 10 years.
So
Yeah, more than that.
So let me ask you another question, Donny. There are some people that are writing in on this, and they really want to talk about the Willie Vampire Johnson fight.
Oh, Wilbur the Vampire.
Wilbur the Vampire, yeah, and he used to come to the ring. I don't know if he did it in your fight or was it Mugabe's fight where he came in the coffin. Did he come in?
Yeah, right after that, he got that. He put that gig together where he would come in being carried in the coffin, then he would rise up with that big, no teeth here. Yeah, he was awesome. Well, I mean, that was my 5th fight. He had quite an extensive amateur career and about the same pro career, I guess, at that time.
That was your 5th pro fight?
Yeah.
Wow.
And cool. I won the fight. Like, I'll tell you right now, I won the fight. Robert Tapper, who's still an international judge for one of the organizations, I can't remember which one, he judged that fight. And every time I see his name, it still pisses me off. I won that fight. I'll tell you how I know I won the fight. I walked back to his corner following him back because I knew his corner man, Pete Susans. That's why I lived in Indianapolis and trained with Marvin Johnson and all that, because Pete he would bring up the opponents. He would fill the cards for the Winnipeg promoter. So they brought this kid up, Wilbur, up to beat me. Because the promoters were mafia connected and I wasn't going along with their program, so they wanted to get me beat. So they brought him up there. And I won that fight. I followed him back to the corner to say, good fight, and say, Pete, you know, something, good fight, whatever. And as Wilbur was getting close, Pete had a sponge, and he threw all the water from the sponge on him as he squeezed it. Yeah. And he said, you fucking bum, you could have won that fight. Yeah. But they didn't even think they won.
Yeah.
But the refs, the judges were told that he won.
Wow.
Before the fight. Mm-hmm. Then we fought a rematch. I knocked him out in the first round, I think. First or second.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember you knocking him out. I don't remember. I didn't know that you. I wasn't sure you.
No, he won the first one decision.
Oh, okay.
But I swear I won the fight. Even his corner thought I won the fight.
Yeah,
that's boxing.
Yeah,
that's a whole other conversation. That thing, what happened with the mafia in Winnipeg? I mean, it was absolutely nuts. They forced me to sign a contract, took me to Montreal to fight their guy, Paul Sauvé Arena, you know, like sold out 12,000 seat hockey arena. I'm fighting their guy who's 38-3, and I'm 5-1. They took me there to get knocked out.
Yeah, they do that, and especially, you know, it's funny because they have this. I mean, it's very much sink or swim in Canada and outside. Like, you don't get protected as you may get protected in some of the gyms in the States if you're a good fighter. It's like when you're coming from the outer regions, which is what anywhere in Canada was, you obviously the talent isn't as deep as it is in the States, but that means your experience isn't as deep either. So you really have to fight to get above that level.
Right.
To really have something that stands out, either defensively, your power, your intelligence, you know what I mean? And something
for me, it was getting out of Canada. I just, drove south to Indianapolis as soon as Pete, after Wilbur Johnson's second fight.
Yeah.
He said, if you want, come down there and train with us. Marvin Johnson's tough. That's what he said. There was a magazine story about him knocking everybody out in the gym. Yeah. I said, I'm on my way, and I just went down there, moved there in their neighborhood. Rented a place, not money, for air conditioning and like that. And it was so hot there.
Yeah.
But I had a fan and a thing that folded into a bed or folded into a couch. And one piece of furniture and a fan. And I bought watermelon every day to keep my weight on.
Bro, that's balls, really. I mean, to do that, to give up everything, that's the love and belief in yourself, love of the sport.
Well, was either that?
I just think it's so commendable. A lot of people won't get out of their comfort zone and go on to try to accomplish what they really want to do. They'll just give up. They'll sit in one spot. They'll go like this in one spot, and then their talents will drop off.
My comfort zone was that one spot. The one I was born into. And I'm not
your comfort zone?
I remember telling my mom, I don't know what you're doing here. I'm leaving. I'm gone. She said, what are you talking about? Wait till you're 16. No way. I'm not waiting till I'm 16. I'm out of here. My thumb will get me anywhere I want to go, but I'm not staying here. So, same as my boxing. I mean, I wasn't going to stay in Canada and try to be a boxer when the next nearest place you can fight is 1,200 miles away. To have an amateur fight, so you have 3 fights a year or whatever. I made the commitment that boxing was my life, and when I did, nothing was. I didn't think of anything as a roadblock. It was just like some hurdle you would jump over and keep going.
Donny, do you still train boxing wise? Julian McGowan had a question for you.
I run a little bit, and I hit the bags and stuff like that a little bit, not a whole lot, not enough. I'm actually keep saying I'm going to start again, but it's so hot here, you guys, and I live in the jungle, and where I live, I mean, I have so much work. I mean, I could hire people to do the work, but I like living. When I made money in boxing, I retired with all this money, and I bought a 6,500 square foot house on a huge mansion, a river and lake, and all that kind of stuff. And before I knew it, I had like $6,500 a month in salaries I was paying out to the gardener, the landscaper, the girl who did the cooking, and this and the that. And I thought, I'm working to make money for other people to live the life I retired to live.
Yeah.
And so this time around, at 63 years old, I'm like, you know what? I don't want anybody around here. I'll do it. So I grow food. I take care of my animals. I water my lands. But I also, if I need a job done, like let's say I want to build a brick wall, I'll hire the guy to build it, but I'll say, I'm your laborer. So you see that truckload of bricks, where do you want it? And I'll bring it. All that sand and rock, I'm shoveling it. You want to break down that wall of earth? I'm doing it with a pickaxe. So I'm in great shape.
Yeah.
And I can box. I know I can box because when I do, it's like not a big effort. Yeah, so I'm not in bad shape, and I do run, So I'm in shape, but I don't box so much because how many times you hit the heavy bag? I don't have, like where I live, there's nobody to hold it back for me or whatever. I'm not going to spar.
How's your light heavyweight? You had a light heavyweight prospect.
Oh, yeah, he's doing great. Right now, like today, we should get a contract, ideally back from the promoters signed, for him to fight elimination for the IBF number 2 mandatory position.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll see if that happens. He hasn't fought for 14 months. He really needs to get in the ring.
Yeah, he needs to get busy. What do you think about Bivol?
Well, Bivol offered him a fight before this last guy he just fought. Yeah, he actually was offered that fight, but
in Saudi,
it's really a long story. But there was a confusion as to who was representing him. Mm-hmm. And the Bivol people got pissed off with that and just went the other direction.
Yeah.
But he's in London. He's there. He's always got people in his ear, people up his ass. And unfortunately, he's a nice kid. He listens to people. And so he had people talking to them that shouldn't have been. Yeah. And I was telling him, just send a freaking email to blah, 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 and tell them the only guy talking to me is Donny Lalonde, blah, blah, blah. He didn't send it in time. And they said, you know what? Forget it. Yeah. And then the fight never happened. The other guy got it. But it doesn't matter. I think Bivol is I think he's like a super talent. I think he's one of these guys that could have been in any generation, and he's a great fighter. I think he's a really great fighter. So I think Malik needed to have a couple more fights first because it had been a year at that point. Mm-hmm. And he's not ready because he needs to be a little more sophisticated from a little bit more training. So he's got to fight against another very, very, very talented fighter, I think. I think his name is Pampalone or something like that. He's from New Zealand, undefeated, knockout guy, good fighter, but very talented guy. He's got a very talented team, and he's a very talented guy, very smart fighter. And Malik has the ability to beat a guy like that, but he has to be trained by the right person, in my opinion, or it's not going to happen. And the guy I think that can do it for him is Buddy McGirt. So that's what we're talking right now. So if he gets the fight, if the contract signed today, I'll be talking to Buddy 5 minutes later and organizing it. We've been talking up till now because he needs somebody like an old school guy that he'll listen to, because some people listen better than others.
What do you think about your kid's chances against Bivol or Beterbiev in the near future?
Well, like I said, I've always said this about Malik. He has the ability and the punching power to knock out anybody, even the other guy, Beterbiev. Yeah, like Malik punches like a freaking super heavyweight that can punch,
Yeah.
If and when he is in the right place in his mind that he's boxing the fight he needs to fight. Like him and I are very similar people and very similar boxers, except he's very healthy, very strong, and very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
So he has the ability to control a fight until he creates an opening and destroy a guy with one punch.
Mm-hmm.
So he can do that to anybody. But you need experience in certain ways before you're going to do that, in my opinion. And he's a couple fights short of that. And I need to be with him because I understand him better than anybody. It sounds like it's about an ego, but it's not. It's because I know him so well. And I know if Buddy's training him, because I'm not going to go somewhere for 2 months and train somebody. But if Buddy's training him, I'll go there with Buddy. Him and I will get in sync. I'll kind of explain the tweaks. And I think Buddy can bring out the best with him, and we have a shot against this kid.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. I don't think Bivol and Better ever going to be there when Malik fights for a title. If he's number 2, they're going to fight each other in June.
Yeah.
And probably they're going to have a rematch. And one of them's going to move to cruiserweight because they're going to make more money. And the other one might even move to cruiserweight because they make more money. I don't think there's money in fights in there for them in light heavyweight right now, unless they can go down and fight, some of the guys of the bigger names in super middle.
Biggest fights at light heavyweight is with each other, like you say. And once
right, that's what I'm saying. Once that's over, what are they going to do? And both guys are talented enough to fight the next weight class up or lower.
Have you seen that fancy dancing kid, the light heavyweight? That's
I like him, Whitaker.
Yeah, he likes him. He's a fan. Right?
Yeah. How would you see your kid against him? Do you think that's I don't know what they're.
Well, that kid's a super middleweight, isn't he? Is he light heavyweight?
He's a light heavy.
Is he light heavyweight? Well, again, my guy hits him, he knocks him out.
Yeah.
In the meantime, no, my guy has more experience than that. The guy's not ready. He's had 5 fights.
Okay.
Whitaker, And Malik says he's like 23-0, I think. He's 23-0, and he's a very mature fighter, a very intelligent fighter.
Yeah.
He's not, he's not just.
Ben Whitaker's just fighting title journeyman right now. Ben Whitaker's fighting 41-year-old journeyman.
Yeah,
He wouldn't want to mess with Malik right now. I wouldn't have thought.
But with 5 fights, who are you supposed to be fighting?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't criticize kid. Everybody wants to jump all over him and for what he's doing and all that stuff. First of all, he's having a good time and he's entertaining. He's making money because of how he's fighting. And who hasn't done that? Look at what's the other guy? Hector Camacho. People like that, And there's lots of guys fought goofy like that and had fun and different things. Manuel Augustus, these kind of guys. But
funny thing is, Camacho didn't actually showboat. Really, it was his antics, it was his mouth and his glitter and his ring attires, his outfits. He was actually pretty straight. He was a boxer and a mover, but he was actually played it pretty straight inside the ring. Camacho. He wasn't really a showboater. It was all the style and profile outside the ring and the outfits in the ring.
He was also a very talented fighter. Very talented.
Absolutely,
fighter.
I love Camacho.
Talented.
Camacho's my 3rd favorite fighter after Ali and Leonard, so I hold him in very high esteem. Yeah.
Well, like I say again with the all-time great thing. I mean, there's so many different factors to try and put all together to say that. I mean, it's pretty much an impossible thing. I think Dennis Rappler said it best.
No, Russell Peltz that was actually
Russell Peltz. I'm sorry, yeah.
But. No, I agree, and I think perhaps we're too fixated with it. I think we're probably too obsessed as a subculture. We're probably too obsessed with talking about the greatest. Or I can get my head around the greatest on an opinion level. What I struggle more with is the 5th greatest and the 17th greatest and the 20. When people publish these really comprehensive lists, my top 50 fighters ever, and you're like, well, it is so complex, like you just outlined briefly, for so many reasons. That how can you have any surety around 50 fighters? Because you could change your name. We could talk about a guy's greatness. You guys could raise a point now that I'd never thought of before, and maybe I've got to go away and change my mind slightly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Silk makes me change my mind a lot. I mean, we argue playfully on here about certain things. I'll be like, oh, not this again. But he makes me change my mind a lot. There's certain things I don't have permission to think anymore. There are certain myths in boxing and narratives. I don't have permission to knee-jerk believe them anymore because Silk has already raised my consciousness on a certain thing. Even if I end up disagreeing with him, it's still in the back of my mind. The alarm bells go off for the flag, red flag. Silk said that's not necessarily so. And half the time he's right, at least half the time.
Well, just like, they say this is a textbook jab.
Yeah.
There's a textbook jab. Who had the best jab? Well, somebody with a completely different jab that completely unorthodox might have been a more effective jabber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Boxing is such an individual thing. It's such an individualized scenario. And there's so many variables in every element and every aspect of it. To be definitive on any one thing, I think, is inaccurate.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's one of the reasons why, Donnie, like between the three of us, Ben and Stretch, Gary Stretch, and myself, I really feel that's one of the reasons, because of the way I think openly. That's why I'm beating these guys in terms of our competition for, who calls a correct amount of fights. And I'm actually beating them right now, and I think it's for that reason. I think outside the box.
Donnie, let me explain. The Silk is ludicrously attached to his sense of one-upmanship, because we have a running predictions league when we have big fights, and we see who got it right and who got it wrong. He's a few times.
Let me give you a secret, Ben. I'll give you a secret, and you're going to beat him every time. Ask me who's going to win. Ask me who's going to win, and go with the other guy. Ask me who's going to win, and bet on the other guy. Pick the other guy, and you'll win 99% of the time.
I know that there are some great fighters who can't pick a winner. They say that they're bad too. They know a lot about boxing. They know everything about boxing, but they can't pick a winner. But Silk, a few times he's dipped out and not made a prediction when he said he was going to, so he's not taken the risk.
That's irrelevant.
But also,
it's my averages that work out.
Sometimes he's benefited from robberies when but he'll take it, and it wouldn't. But there's been but he is leading by 1 point with Gary. I'm the only one who has actually 10 predictions right, but he's got the least losses compared to his 9 wins.
Yeah, but that's only because the 2 fights that I called wrong were throwaways. I just you
were being a bit cavalier, young man. I do admit that you were being a bit kind of free spirited.
I didn't think about it. I didn't thought into it.
You were thinking, I'm so damn good at this, I can afford to have a few crazy bets, like the high roller who puts 50 on red and just thinks, I don't even get it.
I was going to say, I think he's sounding to me like a fighter who's about to get knocked off his stool. His perch, because when you get overconfident, that's when it starts happening. You don't put quite the same discipline into it. He's not going to be quite meticulous with the research.
But well, Donnie, we've detained you on this occasion for 1 hour and 22 minutes and 7 seconds.
That's a record.
It's all good.
One of the longer shows, but Donnie, it's always a massive pleasure to have you on. I'm sure. I hope it's not the last time, because it's always fascinating, and it's just always such a damn pleasure. I'm sure Silk agrees with that.
Yeah, always.
Likewise for me, guys. Likewise for me. Love both you guys.
It's always great.
Absolutely.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Keep knocking them on your show.
Be well. We'll speak again soon.
Yeah, you betcha.
Don't forget the like and subscribe buttons, guys. Sugar, Silk, and Stretch will be back this time next Friday. You know the rest.
Ciao.
Take care, guys.
Take care.